A letter folded under candlelight, red wax dripping. A signet ring pressed down, slow, deliberate, like a sentence being passed. 11 miles away, in an old manser sinking into the autumn dusk, the gravel screams beneath carriage wheels. Sudden, sharp, like a warning shot fired into still air. A maid cries out in the hallway, not from fear, from joy. A joy meant for someone else deep in the library. Where no one ever goes, a young woman sits motionless by the east window. Dark hair simply pinned, no ribbons, no jewels. Gray eyes lift from the page, slow, quiet. The eyes of someone who has long since stopped expecting her name to be spoken. 22 years of being invisible. She does not know that tonight, somewhere far away, a man has just whispered her name. To a portrait, to a woman dead for 8 years. Her fingertip brushes the page. And just beyond the library door, a single footstep stops. The afternoon light came in slow. It moved across the library floor like an old visitor. The kind that does not knock. The kind that simply enters and sits and waits. Eleanor Hartwell sat in the leather chair by the east window. The one with the cracked arm. The one no one else ever wanted. Her book lay open in her lap. Locke, an S concerning human understanding. She had read it 3 times already. She would read it again. Because there was nothing else to do. Because no one was coming to find her. Because in this house, on this afternoon, in this life, she was already gone before she had even left the room. She turned the page. Outside, the gravel crunched under carriage wheels. Loud, sudden. The kind of sound that wakes a house. Eleanor did not look up. She had heard that sound before. Many times. It never meant her. A maid screamed in the hallway. Not in fear, in joy. The wrong kind of joy. The kind reserved for someone else. She's home. Lady Cordelia is home. Footsteps, running footsteps, doors opening. A voice that sounded like bells in winter, Cordelia. Eleanor closed the book, not because she wanted to, because she knew. Because the next hour belonged to her sister. Because for the next hour she would be the wallpaper, the chair, the thing people walked past without seeing. She rose, she moved to the window, and there, down in the courtyard, like a painting come to life, Cordelia, 24 years old. Golden hair caught in autumn light, a traveling cloak the color of wine. A smile a young woman wears when she has been told her whole life that her smile is her fortune. Servants unload. 1, 2, 5, 7, each one stuffed with silks and ribbons and the modiste's finest work. Lord Hartwell stood on the steps, arms wide, face soft in a way it'd never been soft for Eleanor. My beautiful girl, my beautiful, beautiful girl. Eleanor pressed her forehead to the cool glass. She did not cry. She had stopped crying years ago. Crying was a thing you did when you believed someone would come to wipe the tears away. Eleanor no longer believed. She turned from the window, walked to the small mirror beside the bookshelf, looked at herself, dark hair, pulled back simple, no ribbons, no jewels, gray eyes, large for her face. Her mother's eyes, people used to say. Back when people used to say things about her, a nose that was just a nose. A mouth that was just a mouth. Skin pale from too many hours indoors with books. Not ugly, just unremarkable. The kind of face that exists in the corner of every painting. The kind the painter forgets the name of by the time the work is hung. She heard her sister's laugh in the hallway. Closer now, bright, easy. The library door burst open. Eleanor, there you are. Hiding with your books again. Cordelia swept in, still in her cloak, cheeks flushed, hair perfect even after 2 days of travel. Welcome home, Eleanor said. She meant it. That was the strange part. That was the part that made it worse. Eleanor loved her sister, genuinely, helplessly, the way a moon loves the planet. It must circle forever. Cordelia took her hands, squeezed them, looked into her face with eyes that were green and warm and full of a guilt she would never speak out loud. I brought you something. A gown. Blue. Madame Devereux said it would bring out your eyes. That was kind. You will come down for tea. Father is so happy. He has news. Eleanor smiled. The smile she had practiced. The one that asked for nothing, of course. Cordelia hesitated, just for a moment. Just long enough for Eleanor to see something flicker behind her sister's perfect face. Something tired, Something old. Something that looked almost like a prayer. Then it was gone. Cordelia turned, swept out. Her cloak trailing behind her like a flag in a war. Eleanor had never been invited to fight. Eleanor stood alone in the library. She picked up her book, held it against her chest, pressed it there like a hand to a wound. The tea did not go well, or rather, the tea went exactly as it always went, which was the same thing. Lord Edmund Hartwell talked about the Modisti, about London, about a duchess he had once met in 1814, about a hunt he had ridden in his youth, about Cordelia, about Cordelia. About Cordelia, Eleanor sat. She poured. She passed the sugar. She did not speak. No one noticed. No one ever did. Halfway through the second cup, Lord Hartwell stood up. He looked at Cordelia, only at Cordelia. The way a starving man looks at bread, my dear. I must speak with Mr. Pembroke. Privately, Eleanor. See to your sister. Eleanor nodded. He swept past her chair, 3 feet from her elbow. He did not see her. He never saw her. The door to the study closed. Cordelia reached for another biscuit, did not eat it, just held it, stared at it like it had betrayed her. Are you well? Eleanor asked. I am tired. London is tiring. Yes. A pause, Eleanor. Yes. Do you ever wish you were some... The question hung in the air. Eleanor looked at her sister, truly looked, and for a moment she saw what no one else ever saw. Not the golden hair, not the rose petal skin, but the woman underneath. The woman who had been polished and displayed and traded since the day she turned 16. The woman who was so tired she could not finish a biscuit. Sometimes, Eleanor said, wish. What do you wish that I were seen? Cordelia laughed. A small broken laugh, and I wish I were not. They looked at each other. For one moment in 22 years. Then Cordelia stood up, smoothed her put her mask back on, smiled like a debutante. I should rest. The journey was long. She left. Eleanor sat alone at the table. The teapot was cold. The biscuit was uneaten. And from the study, through the thick oak door, came voices. Voices Eleanor was not supposed to hear. She rose, quietly, the way she had learned to do over 22 years of being invisible. She crossed the carpet. She stood beside the door. She held her breath. 6 months, my lord. Perhaps less. That was Pembroke, the family solicitor. A small man with a small voice and small eyes that saw everything. There must be something. That was her father, and his voice. His voice was not the voice he used with Cordelia, not the voice he used with anyone. It was thin, stretched, the voice of a man at the bottom of a deep well looking up, my lord. You have borrowed against every acre, every tenant, every painting, every horse. The wine cellar is mortgaged. The silver is mortgaged. The very chair you sit on is technically the property of Lord Crawford. Eleanor knew the name. A merchant baron. Knew money. Course. 2 wives buried already, and the second one only 23 when she went into the ground. Crawford, her father said. The name came out like he was spitting it. He has offered an extension. At what cost? A pause. Then Pembroke's voice, soft, careful. He has expressed interest in Lady Cordelia. Silence. Eleanor pressed her hand to her mouth. Her sister and Crawford. The man with 2 wives in the ground. No. Her father's voice, hard now. Not because he loved Cordelia, but because Cordelia was worth more than that. No. There is another path, my lord. The Duke of Ravenshire, another pause. His Grace has not entertained marriage in 8 years. He is hosting a ball, 2 weeks from Saturday. The invitation arrived this morning. He is looking, Pembroke. A duke of his age does not host a ball unless he is looking, and Lady Cordelia will be the most beautiful woman in that room. She will be the most beautiful woman in any room she enters, and his Grace will see her. And he will save us. And if he does not, a long silence then God help us all. Eleanor stepped back from the door. She walked to the library, slowly, like a woman walking to her own funeral. She sat in the leather chair by the east window, the cracked one, the one no one else wanted. She opened her book. She did not read it. She stared at the page, at Locke's careful argument about understanding, about the mind being a blank slate upon which experience writes. Eleanor's mind was not a blank slate. It was a wall covered in 22 years of writing. And the writing all said the same thing. You are not the one who matters. You are not the one they see. You are not the one who will be saved. And then, beneath all of it, in handwriting did not recognize, but that came from somewhere deep inside her, came a new line, "But you are still here." Eleanor closed the book. She did not cry. She had stopped crying years ago. The week that followed was a hurricane. Seamstresses arrived before dawn. Madame Devereux herself came up from London. Bolts of silk in colors Eleanor could not name. Emerald, cream, rose, champagne. A blue so pale it looked like the sky before snow. All for Cordelia. The morning room became a fitting gerber. Cordelia stood on a platform like a statue being carved. Hours at a time, pins everywhere. Madame Devereux muttering through her teeth. Eleanor was measured once. By an assistant, in a hallway. Standing up, "For the gray gown, my lady." The gray gown, the afterthought. Eleanor did not protest. There was no point. She watched the household transform. She watched the silver come out of storage. She watched the cook plan menus for a ball Eleanor would attend only as a chaperone for her sister's triumph. She watched her father pace the corridors muttering about flowers and seating and which carriage would best display Cordelia's gown. He did not speak to Eleanor, except once. On the Wednesday before the ball, she passed him in the corridor outside his study. He was reading a letter. His face was tight, "Father, might I ask?" He looked up, looked at her, looked through her. "Not now, Eleanor." She turned to go. "Wait." She turned back. Her heart did the small, foolish thing it always did when he said her name, Saturday night, at the ball. "I need you to understand something." "Yes, Father, this is Cordelia's night. His Grace must see her. He must see her clearly." Without distraction, he paused. She waited. "I need you to be invisible." The words landed like a stone in a still pond. She did not flinch. She had been trained too well for that. "Yes?" "Father," he nodded, went back to his letter, walked past her, did not look back. Eleanor stood in the corridor, invisible, a word for what she had already been her entire life. But to have it spoken out loud, to have it named, to have it requested like a favor, that was something new. That was something that hurt in a way she had not expected. She walked back to the library, to her chair, to her book. She read about Locke, about empiricism, about the mind that learns through experience, and she thought about what her own mind had learned through 22 years of experience. That she was not the one who mattered, that she was not the one they saw, that she was not the one who would be saved, she thought. And then she did something she had never done before. She thought one more thought. What if Locke was wrong? What if the mind could choose what it learned? What if she could choose to learn something different? Eleanor closed the book. She walked to her father's library. Not the small one she used. The big one. The one where the real books lived. She found the political pamphlets in the third shelf from the top. A thin volume bound in dark blue. A Vindication of the Rights of Woman. Mary Wollstonecraft. She had read it, twice. She had hidden her own copy under her mattress like contraband. Her father did not approve of such reading. She did not care. She took the pamphlet from the shelf. She tucked it under her arm. She walked back to her room. She did not know yet that this small book, this small act of theft, this small choice, would change her life. She only knew that she did not want to be invisible anymore, not even if she still was. The ball came. The morning of the ball, Lord Hartwell paced. Cordelia stood still. Eleanor sat in a corner. Aides ran. Mirrors were checked. Cordelia's gown was lifted and lowered and lifted again. Emerald silk. The neckline cut precisely. The sleeves draped just so. Madame Devereux herself was there, adjusting, murmuring, praying. Cordelia did not speak. Cordelia stood in her gown like a woman about to be hung. Eleanor watched her sister's face in the mirror. And for one moment, just one, she saw something she had not seen before. Not jealousy, not vanity, not pride, fear. Cordelia was afraid. Eleanor stood up, crossed the room, took her sister's hand. Cordelia looked at her. Eyes wide, "You will be magnificent," Eleanor whispered. "I know, you will save us. I know, you are allowed to be afraid." Cordelia's eyes filled, just for a moment. Then Madame Devereux clapped her hands. The hair. Quickly. "We have an hour." Cordelia turned away. The mask came back on. Eleanor went to her own room. The gray gown was laid out on the bed. Pale gray muslin. No ornament, no embroidery, no ribbon at the waist. A gown, designed for a woman who was meant to disappear into the wallpaper. Eleanor put it on. She looked in the mirror. She saw what her father wanted her to be. She saw invisible. She thought about her hair. She thought about leaving it plain. Pulled. Back. The way she always wore it. The way that would let her disappear. Then she thought about Wollstonecraft. She thought about the pamphlet hidden under her mattress. She thought about the lines she had memorized. The mind that thinks is not less feminine for thinking. She did her hair differently, a simple twist. But she let one curl fall. Just one. By the temple, a small rebellion, a small visible thing. She looked in the mirror. She was still plain, still ordinary, still gray and small and forgettable. But there was one curl by her temple. She left the room. The carriage ride was silent. Lord Hartwell stared out the window, calculating, planning, practicing his bow. Cordelia sat with her hands folded in her lap, her face perfect, her eyes far away. Eleanor sat in the corner of the carriage. She held a small reticule. Inside it, she had tucked one thing, not a handkerchief, not smelling salts, the Wollstonecraft pamphlet. She did not know why she had brought it. She only knew that she needed something. Some small piece of herself. Some small reminder that she was a person with a mind and a name and a soul. That she was not just gray muslin and an empty chair. The carriage turned through gates. Eleanor looked out, and there, Ravenshire House. She had heard of it. Everyone had. But she had not been prepared. The house rose from the autumn night like a thing made of fire and stone. Hundreds of torches lined the drive. The windows blazed gold. The classical facade stretched out against the sky, like something from a story her mother had once read her by candlelight. A house that had stood for 300 years. A house owned by a man who had not danced in 8. A house that, tonight, was about to be opened. The carriage stopped, footmen in livery, music spilling from the great doors. The sound of laughter. The murmur of 200 voices. Lord Hartwell stepped out first. He turned. He offered his hand to Cordelia. He did not offer his hand to Eleanor. She climbed down on her own. Her slipper landed in the gravel. A small sound. A sound that no one heard. Eleanor straightened her spine. She walked behind her sister and her father. She entered the house of Nathaniel Ashford, Duke of Ravenshire. She did not know yet what would happen there. She only knew that her gray gown was very gray. And her father's voice was very loud as he announced their arrival, and the chandeliers were very bright. And somewhere, in this house, full of golden light and beautiful people, there was a man who was about to look at her, truly, for the first time in her life. The ballroom took her breath away. She had read about such rooms. She had imagined them. She had drawn them in the margins of her books. But this, the ceiling was a fresco. Greek gods and goddesses, painted by some master hand, looking down on the dancers with eyes that knew everything. The chandeliers held 1,000 candles. The mirrors on the walls doubled and tripled the light until the room felt infinite. The orchestra played a quadrille from a balcony at the far end. The air smelled of beeswax, of hothouse roses, of perfume too expensive to name the guests. Eleanor had never seen so many beautiful people in one room. Women in jewel tones, diamonds, emeralds, sapphires, hair piled high, fans fluttering, laughter rising and falling like waves on a shore. Men in black coats, crisped white linen, polished boots, standing in groups, talking, watching, calculating. A society, a pageant, a market. And Eleanor in her gray gown, with one curl by her temple. She stepped to the sides. Toward the wall, toward where she belonged. Lord Hartwell did not notice. He was already moving, already towing Cordelia forward, already searching the room with hungry eyes. And then the room hushed, a turning of heads, a lowering of voices. a small ripple that started at the great doors and moved outward like water from a stone. The Duke had entered. Eleanor looked. She could not help it. She had read about him. She had read his pamphlet on education. She had imagined him 100 different ways. She had imagined him wrong. He was taller than she had expected, broad through the shoulders, dark hair that fell forward over his brow, despite what was clearly a recent attempt to tame it. He wore black, plain black, not a single ornament, not a single ribbon or pin. He did not need them. His face was the kind of face you saw once and could not stop seeing. Not beautiful in the easy way Cordelia was beautiful, but arrested. Like a face carved by a sculptor who had loved someone very much and lost them. There were lines around his eyes, around his mouth. Lines that did not belong to a man of 31. Grief had drawn those lines. Eleanor knew grief lines. She had seen them in her own mirror after her mother died. He stood at the door. He bowed slightly. He moved into the room. People reached for him. Voices called his name. He answered each one, politely, briefly. The way a man speaks when he has been speaking only when necessary for 8 years. His eyes scanned the room, looking for what Eleanor did not know. She watched what's on him move through the crowd. She watched her father intercept him. "Your Grace, Lord Edmund Hartwell, may I present my daughter?" Lord Hartwell stepped aside. With a flourish, like a magician revealing a trick, the finest jewel in all of England, Lady Cordelia Hartwell. Cordelia sank into a curtsy, perfect, practiced, the fall of her gown like green water around her feet. Eleanor watched the Duke's face. She was 10 feet away, half in shadow, the wall at her back, the Wollstonecraft pamphlet in her reticule. She watched the Duke look at her sister. She watched him take in the golden hair, the rose petal skin, the eyes the exact color of the emerald gown. She watched him bow. She watched him speak. "Lady Cordelia, may I have the honor of this dance?" Lord Hartwell's face nearly cracked in half with his smile. The Duke offered his arm. Cordelia took it. They walked to the floor. The orchestra began a waltz. Eleanor watched them dance. Her sister was magnificent. There was no other word. Her gown caught the light. Her movement was liquid. Her smile was small and proper, and exactly what a duchess's smile should be. The Duke danced with her in perfect form. He did not smile. He did not look at her face. He looked over her shoulder, at the room, at the crowd, at nothing. Eleanor saw it. She doubted anyone else saw it, but she saw it. He was not looking at Cordelia. He was looking past her. The waltz ended. The Duke bowed. Cordelia curtsied. He led her back to her father. He spoke a brief pleasantry. He stepped away. Lord Hartwell beamed. He did not see that the Duke had not asked for a second dance. He did not see that the Duke had not asked when he might call. He did not see that the Duke had already turned, already moved, already begun to walk away. Lord Hartwell only saw triumph, because Lord Hartwell only ever saw what he wanted to see. Eleanor pressed herself further into the shadow of the wall. She wanted to disappear. She was supposed to disappear. Her father had told her so. She looked across the ballroom, and she saw it, a wall, floor ceiling, books, a library inside a ballroom. Eleanor felt something pull inside her chest, a small thing, a foolish thing. She crossed the room. She kept her head down. She moved between the dancers. She slipped past clusters of ladies and gentlemen. She was a gray ghost in a room full of color, and no one stopped her. No one saw her. She reached the books. Her hand went out before she could stop it. The spines were leather, real leather, worn, used, read. These were not decoration. Someone in this house read these books. Someone touched them often. She let her fingers trail across them. Cool, smooth, familiar. Voltaire, Hume, Locke, Burke, Smith. And then a dark blue spine, slim. She knew that spine. She pulled it out, a vindication of the rights of woman. In a Duke's ballroom, Eleanor felt something move in her chest. Something foolish. Something dangerous. Something that felt almost like hope. She opened the book. She turned to a page she knew. A page she had memorized. The mind that thinks is not less feminine for thinking. She breathed in. Slow. Quiet. Wollstonecraft, a bold choice for a ball. The voice was just behind her. Local cultured, tinged with something she could not name. Eleanor turned. He was there, the Duke of Ravenshire, 3 feet away at her, looking her, not at the room behind her, not over her shoulder. At her, her face, her eyes. Her one fallen curl at her. Eleanor felt her face go hot. The book nearly slipped from her hands. Your Grace. I beg your pardon. I should not have. Why not? They are here to be read, not displayed. She stared at him. She could not breathe. She could not think. She could fully feel the leather of the book in her hands and the heat in her face, and the strange impossible fact that a duke was speaking to her, looking at her, standing in front of her, while her sister stood across the room. In emerald silk, with golden hair and perfect skin. He should not be here. He should be there. This was wrong. This was a mistake. He must have lost his way. Have you read it? He said, yes. What did you think? She opened her mouth, she closed it. 22 years of training screamed at her to defer, to demur, to smile and say, she had no opinion, to make herself small. But the book was in her hand, and he had asked, and his eyes were on her face. Truly on her face. The way a man looks at a person he is actually listening to. And something in her broke, or healed. She was not sure which. I think, she said, slowly, carefully. I think she argues persuasively that denying women education does not protect their virtue. It ensures their dependence. She paused. He did not speak. He waited, so she went on. I think those who claim she advocates for unwomanly behavior confuse independence with impropriety. They cannot imagine a woman who thinks and remains virtuous. As though the two were incompatible. She stopped. She had said too much. She had been too forward. He would laugh at her. He would turn away. He would walk back across the room and ask her sister for a second waltz, and Eleanor would die a small death right here against this bookcase. He did not laugh. He did not turn away. He smiled. Not the polite smile he had given to 100 guests already that night. Not the careful smile of an aristocrat doing his duty. A real smile. It reached his eyes. It softened the grief lines around his mouth. It made him look younger. Less haunted. Almost like a man who was happy. Virtue grounded in genuine understanding, he said, is stronger than virtue maintained through ignorance. It was a line from the book. He had read it. She had read it. They had both read it. Eleanor's heart did something foolish. She tried to make it stop. She could not. Your Grace. Tell me your name. Eleanor. Eleanor Hartwell. Something passed across his face, just for a moment. Some flicker of recognition or surprise. Then it was gone. Lady Eleanor, he bowed. To her. A duke bowed to her. The invisible daughter. The afterthought. The gray gown by the wall. She did not know what to do. She curtsied. Too late. Too low. The book pressed against her chest. Have you read his pamphlet? She said, because she could not help herself. Because her mouth had decided to keep moving even after her mind had told it to stop. His. On educational reform, my pamphlet. Yes. He looked at her. Really looked. You have read it twice. Your argument about classical education for women. I have never read anything like it. The line about Wollstonecraft. The mind is not determined by the body that houses it. He did not speak for a moment. She was certain she had ruined it. She had revealed too much. Too quickly. He would know now that she was strange. That she read things she should not. That she thought thoughts a woman should not think. But he was still looking at her. And his eyes had something in them now. Something soft. Something almost like a man who had been searching for something for a very long time. And had, just possibly, found it. Your Grace. The voice cut between them like a knife. Lord Hartwell. Eleanor stepped back. Instinctively. The book pressed to her chest. The heat rising into her face. Her father was there. Beside her. Beside the Duke. Cordelia just behind him. Your Grace. Forgive me. My younger daughter has a habit of wandering. I hope she has not troubled you. Lady Cordelia was just remarking how lovely the orchestra is. Perhaps another dance? The Duke's face changed. The softness left. The grief lines came back. The mask returned. He bowed to Lord Hartwell. He bowed to Cordelia. He turned to Eleanor. Just once. Just for a heartbeat, Lady Eleanor. I hope we may continue our discussion. Another time, he walked away. Eleanor stood frozen. Her father turned on her. His face was tight, his voice low. He spoke through his teeth. What did you say to him? Nothing. Father, he spoke to me. I did not seek him out. He spoke to me first. You will not approach him again. You will stay by the wall. You will be invisible. As I instructed. Yes, father. He turned. He took Cordelia's arm. He swept her away. Eleanor stood by the bookcase. The Wollstonecraft pamphlet was still in her hand. She had not given it back to the shelf. She opened her reticule. She put the book inside. She would return it. Later. Quietly, she watched the room. She watched her sister dance with another gentleman, a baron, then a viscount, then a colonel. She watched her father beam. She watched the Duke move through the crowd, speaking, bowing, doing his duty. And once, just once, across the entire ballroom, through the press of bodies and the swirl of color and the flicker of 1,000 candles, he looked at her. Their eyes met. He held her gaze for 1 second, 2, 3, then he turned away. Eleanor pressed her hand against the bookcase. She steadied herself. She did not know what had just happened. She only knew that something had. And that for the first time in 22 years, in a room full of 200 people, she had not been invisible. She had been seen. The carriage ride home was a silent storm. Lord Hartwell sat across from Eleanor, his arms folded, his face red, his jaw working. Cordelia sat beside Eleanor. Her hand found Eleanor's in the dark. She squeezed, once, quick, a small thing, a sister thing, a thing Eleanor had not expected. When they reached Hartwell Manor, Lord Hartwell stormed up the steps, slammed the door of his study, did not say good night. Cordelia took Eleanor's elbow, walked her upstairs, stopped at Eleanor's door. What did he say to you? Cordelia whispered. He asked what I thought of a book. And I told him. Cordelia closed her eyes. When she opened them, there was something there Eleanor had never seen. Something fierce. Something that might have been pride. Or grief. Or both. Sleep well, sister. She kissed Eleanor's cheek. She left. Eleanor went into her room. She closed the door. She took the Wollstonecraft pamphlet from her reticule and placed it on her bedside table. She undid her hair. The one fallen curl had stayed all night. Stubborn. Defiant. She looked in the mirror. The same face. The same gray eyes. The same plain features. But different. Something behind the eyes was different. Something had woken up. She went to her window. She looked out into the dark, somewhere out there, across the autumn fields, behind the trees. In a house full of books and grief and one impossible question. Somewhere out there was a man who had seen her. She pressed her hand to the cold glass. She did not cry. She had stopped crying years ago, but for the first time in 22 years, she wondered what it would feel like. If someone saw her again, in his own house, at the same hour, the Duke of Ravenshire stood in his study. The fire was low. The candles were almost out. He did not light more. He stood in front of the painting above the mantel, his mother, Lady Genevieve Ashford, painted by Lawrence in the last year of her life. She had been 48, already ill, already fading. She had insisted on the painting. She had insisted on him. She had made him sit beside her, as a boy of 15, and she had told him things. He remembered her words. He remembered them every day. He had remembered them for 8 years. The painted face looked down at him, gentle, sharp. Knowing, he spoke to her. The way he always did. I saw her tonight. The painted high eyes did not change, but he felt the answer anyway. The way he always did. He heard her voice. The voice he had heard last when he was 23, and she was 48 and dying and small in her bed. She had taken his hand. She had whispered, "Listen to me, my boy. Listen carefully. The world will offer you beautiful women. They will be paraded before you. Their mothers will push them forward. Their fathers will sing their praises. And you will think you are choosing, but you are not. The right woman will not be the one you see first. She will be the one you see last. Because she will be standing still, while the others spin around her trying to be noticed. She will be in the corner. or against the wall, or at the bookcase. She will not ask to be seen. She will simply be worth seeing tied her, and when you find her, do not let her go. He had laughed at the time. He had been 23, foolish, certain of himself, and then she had died, and he had not laughed in 8 years. The Duke stood in front of the painting now. He did not laugh. He spoke, "Mother, I think. I think I have found her." The fire popped. He stood a long time in the dark. The painted face above the mantel said nothing. But somehow, in the quiet, he heard her anyway. He heard her say, "Good." He turned from the painting. He walked to his desk. He sat down. He pulled out a sheet of paper. He picked up his pen. And in the silence of a great house, in the small hours of a long autumn night, the Duke of Ravenshire began to write a letter to Lord Edmund Hartwell, requesting permission to call on his younger daughter, the one in the gray gown, the one with the fallen curl, the one who had read Wollstonecraft, the one named Eleanor. He finished the letter. He sealed it with wax. He set it on the silver salver to go out at first light. He stood up. He went to the window. He looked out at the dark, somewhere out there, across the autumn fields, behind the trees, in a house full of grief and pretense, and one impossible girl. Somewhere, out there, was the woman his mother had told him about. He pressed his hand to the cold glass. Tomorrow, he would call, tomorrow, and he would see her again, and, this time, he would not let her go. The letter arrived at dawn. Eleanor was already awake. She had not slept. She had sat by her window most of the night, watching the sky turn from black to gray, to the pale silver of an autumn morning. The Wollstonecraft pamphlet still sat on her bedside table. She had not touched it again. She was afraid of it, or rather, she was afraid of what it had done to her, because something had cracked open in her chest last night, and she did not know how to close it again, and she did not know if she wanted to. Downstairs, a horse came up the drive, loud on the gravel, fast. The kind of speed that meant news. Eleanor stood from her chair. She moved to her door. She did not open it. She listened. A knock at the great front door. A footman's voice. A pause. Another voice. Mrs. Ashby, the housekeeper. Slow steps up the main staircase. A knock at her father's bedchamber. A muffled exchange, then a roar. Not anger. Not fear. Triumph. He has written. Pembroke. He has written. Get me my dressing gown. Get me my spectacles. He has written. Eleanor pressed her ear to the door. Who, my lord? The Duke himself. He has written. A pause. He requests permission to call. Eleanor's heart did a small foolish thing. A waltz step. A leap. A turn. She told it to stop. She pressed her hand to her chest. She told it to be still. It would not be still, because he had written. He had written. He had. On whom does he request to call, my lord? A long pause. A very long pause. Eleanor held her breath, then her father's voice. Slower now. Confused. The triumph drained out of it. Replaced by something else. Something that sounded almost like fear. On, my lord. On Eleanor. The world went quiet. Eleanor stood with her hand on the doorknob, and the blood roaring in her ears. On Eleanor, on her, on the invisible one. Her father's voice again. Lower now. Almost a whisper. There has been some mistake. Mrs. Ashby did not answer. Pembroke. Fetch Pembroke. There has been some mistake. He means Cordelia. He must mean Cordelia. He must. Eleanor stepped back from the door. She walked to her bed. She sat down on the edge. She put her hand over her mouth. She did not laugh. She did not cry. She just sat. Because the world she had lived in for 22 years was a world in which her father knew exactly what every part of his household was worth. And in that world, Eleanor was worth nothing. And now, a duke had written. A duke had named her, and her father did not know what to do. Eleanor sat on the edge of her bed and she thought, I should be afraid. I should be confused. I should be modest. I should not be. She stopped. Her thought broke off in the middle. Because she was smiling. Her hand was over her mouth and behind her hand. In the privacy of her own face, she was smiling. She had not smiled like that since her mother died. The Duke arrived at 3 o'clock that afternoon. Precisely, Lord Hartwell had spent the intervening hours doing things he had not done in months. He had bathed. Twice. He had changed his coat. He had ordered new candles in the drawing room. He had insisted Cordelia wear her cream muslin, the one with the embroidered roses. He had ignored Eleanor entirely. This was nothing new. What was new was the way he ignored her now. He did not look past her. He looked away from her, as though her presence in the room was a problem he could not solve. Cordelia did Eleanor's hair herself, in Eleanor's chamber. With her own hands. She did not speak. She brushed Eleanor's dark hair with long, careful strokes. She pinned it up. She let 2 curls fall this time, one by each temple. She stood back. She looked. There. Cordelia, what? I do not understand. Neither does father, but he wrote about you, Eleanor. Yes, he saw you. Yes. A long pause. Cordelia looked at her sister in the mirror. Her face was perfectly composed, but her eyes were shining. Good, Cordelia said. Just the one word. Then she turned and left the room. The drawing room was not ready, or rather it was too ready. Lord Hartwell had ordered everything moved, then moved back, then moved again. The teapot was on, then off. The cake was on the wrong plate, then the right plate, then the wrong plate again. Eleanor sat in the corner chair, the one farthest from the door. She had brought a book, not Wollstonecraft. She was not ready for that. Voltaire. Philosophical essays. She held it open in her lap. She did not read. She listened. She heard a carriage in the drive. She heard footsteps on the steps. She heard the great front door open. She heard the butler's voice. Then a voice she had heard only once before, the low, cultured, tinged with something she still could not name. The Duke of Ravenshire. She did not look up. She did not trust herself to look up. Her father bustled to the doorway. Cordelia rose from the sofa. The Duke entered. The bow, the greeting, the exchange of pleasantries. Eleanor kept her eyes on the page. Voltaire was talking about toleration. She could not remember a single word of it. Then, Lady Eleanor. The voice was right in front of her. She looked up. He was there. 3 feet away. Not bending, not stooping, just looking down at her with the same face he had worn in the ballroom. The grief lines, the serious mouth, the eyes that had something soft in them when they looked at her, and nowhere else. She stood up. Quickly. Too quickly. The book nearly fell. She curtsied. Your Grace, what are you reading? She held up the book. He took it from her hand. Carefully. As though it was something precious. He turned it over. He read the title. He smiled. Not the polite smile. The other one, ambitious reading for an autumn afternoon. Voltaire makes a good case for tolerance. He does. Though I disagree with some of his conclusions about natural philosophy, so do I. He looked at her. She looked at him. The drawing room ceased to exist. Across the room, Lord Hartwell made a small choked sound. Eleanor heard it as though from a great distance. The Duke heard nothing. He gestured to the chair beside hers. May I, please? He sat, for 30 minutes, in a drawing room in Hartwell Manor. In the presence of her father and her sister, the Duke of Ravenshire sat in the chair beside Eleanor Hartwell and talked to her about Voltaire, about empiricism, about rationalism, about whether the human mind could ever truly know anything. He asked her questions. She answered them. He smiled at her answers. She smiled back. Her father stood by the fireplace. He held a teacup. He did not drink from it. He stared. Cordelia sat on the sofa. She picked up her embroidery. She did not stitch. She watched. The clock ticked. The fire crackled. The conversation flowed. 30 minutes. Then 31. Then 35. At 40 minutes, the Duke stood up. He had stayed 10 minutes longer than propriety allowed. He bowed to Lord Hartwell. He bowed to Cordelia. He bowed to Eleanor. He held her gaze for 1 second longer than he had to. May I call again? Yes. The word came out of her mouth before her brain had approved it. She did not regret it. He nodded. He left. The room was silent for a long time. Then her father spoke. Low horse. He came for you. Yes, father. He. Yes, a pause, Cordelia. You will work harder. He was being polite to your sister. You must capture his attention. You must. Cordelia did not look up from her embroidery. Yes, father. Her voice was very flat. Eleanor watched her sister's hands. Cordelia was stabbing the needle into the cloth without any thread. He came back 3 days later. He brought flowers. He gave them to Cordelia. He sat down beside Eleanor. For 30 minutes he asked her about books. 3 days after that, he came back. He brought a small volume of poetry. He gave it to Cordelia. He sat down beside Eleanor. For 30 minutes, he asked her about politics, about the Corn Laws, about a debate in the House of Lords. She answered. He listened. He came back again, and again. 6 visits in 3 weeks. Lord Hartwell grew more and more confused, then angry, then desperate. He coached Cordelia. Smile more. Speak more. Laugh at his jokes. Lean forward when he speaks. Be more vivacious. Be more charming. Be more. Cordelia did everything he asked. She was magnificent. She was witty. She was perfect. The Duke noticed none of it. He noticed Eleanor. On the 7th visit, something different happened. It was a Wednesday afternoon. The light was thin and golden. The maples in the drive were almost bare. The Duke arrived. He bowed. He sat. After 10 minutes of pleasantries, he turned to Lord Hartwell. The day is unusually fine for late October. Might I impose upon your hospitality? A walk in your gardens. Lord Hartwell beamed. Of course, of course. Cordelia, fetch your wrap. I was hoping, the Duke said, quietly, politely. The way a man speaks when he is asking for something he knows is unusual. I was hoping both Lady Cordelia and Lady Eleanor might join me. I find conversation flows more easily with a small group. Lord Hartwell's smile froze, but he could not refuse a duke. He nodded, once. Stiffly, the 3 of them left the house. The gardens of Hartwell Manor were old and overgrown. The hedges needed trimming. The fountains were dry. The roses were the last of the season, just beginning to brown at the edges. They walked. The Duke offered his arm to Cordelia. She took it. Eleanor walked on the other side, a pace behind, where she belonged. They reached the rose arbor. A maid came running, breathless, hands twisting. Apologetic, Lady Cordelia. Forgive me. Your father. He requests your urgent presence on the matter of tomorrow's menu. Cordelia looked at the maid. The maid looked at the gravel. The lie was so transparent it was almost visible in the air between them. Cordelia turned. She looked at Eleanor, then at the Duke. And then, just for a moment, she smiled, a real smile. The first true smile Eleanor had seen on her sister's face in years. Of course, Cordelia said. Your Grace. Eleanor, please excuse me. She walked away. She did not look back. Eleanor stood still in the rose arbor. She did not know what was happening, but she knew this much. Her sister had just left her alone with a duke, in a garden, without a chaperone. This was improper. This was scandalous. This was wonderful. The Duke did not move at first. He watched Cordelia walk back to the house. He waited until she was inside. Then he turned to Eleanor. Will you walk with me? Yes. She did not take his arm. She walked beside him. A proper distance. A respectable distance. The roses smelled like the end of something. He spoke first. Your sister is very intelligent. Yes, she knew. Knew what? That I needed to speak with you. Eleanor's heart did the foolish thing again. She told it to stop. It would not stop. She had begun to suspect that her heart no longer answered to her, that her heart had begun answering to someone else. She kept walking. She kept her eyes on the gravel path. She spoke. Your Grace, there is something I must say. Tell me. You are expected to court my sister. Yes. I know what is expected. Society, my father, the entire household. Yes. She is beautiful. She is. She would be a magnificent duchess. She would. Then why? The word came out smaller than she had intended. He stopped walking. She stopped too. They stood on the gravel path between the roses. He did not touch her. He did not move closer. But she could feel him there. The way you can feel the heat of a fire across a room, Eleanor. It was the first time he had used her name without the lady, without the title. Just Eleanor. She felt it in her chest, like a small, clean blade, Eleanor. I want to tell you something. Will you listen? Yes. 8 years ago, my mother died. She had not expected that. She looked at him. His face was turned slightly away, toward the brown roses. The grief lines were deeper now. cut by the gold afternoon light into something almost beautiful, Lady Genevieve, she said. Softly. Yes, I am sorry. She was 48. She had been ill a long time. She knew she was dying. She had time to say what she needed to say. He paused. He spoke again. More carefully now, on her last day. She told me how to choose a wife. Eleanor did not breathe. She told me the right woman would not be the one I saw first. She would be the one I saw last. Because she would be standing still while the others spun around her. She would be in the corner, or against the wall, or at the bookcase. He turned to look at Eleanor now, she said. Find her, and when you find her, do not let her go. Eleanor's hand went to her throat. For 8 years, he said. 8 years, Eleanor. I have walked into rooms, and I have looked. I have been to 100 balls, 1,000 teas. I have met every eligible woman in England. They have all been pushed forward, and I never saw any of them. Not really. I would speak the polite words. I would dance the dances. I would go home, and every night I would stand in front of her painting and I would say, Mother. I have not found her yet. Eleanor was crying. She had not noticed when she started. Her cheeks were wet and she had not noticed, and then, his voice was very soft now, and then 3 weeks ago. In my own ballroom, I saw a girl in a gray gown, at the bookcase, reading Wollstonecraft, Your Grace, and I stood there. And I thought, he stopped. He swallowed. I thought, there she is. The one Mother told me about. She is right there. I am no one. No, I am the invisible daughter. I am the afterthought. I am the gray gown, Eleanor. I am not what she meant. Your mother? She meant some great lady, some woman of substance. She did not mean me, Eleanor. Look at me. She looked. His face was open. The mask was gone. The grief lines were still there, but they were softer now. The eyes were not the eyes of a duke. They were the eyes of a man, a frightened man. A hoping man, Eleanor. She meant you. The wind moved through the brown roses. A single petal fell. Eleanor stood on the gravel path, and she felt something inside her come undone. Not break, like a knot that had been tied for 22 years. She had been so small for so long. She had been so quiet for so long. She had been so good at being invisible, and now, this man, this grieving, careful man, was standing on a gravel path in late October and telling her that he saw her, that his mother had told him about her, that his mother had been right. She did not know what to do with it. She did not know how to receive it. I am afraid, she said. I know. I do not know how to do this. Neither do I. What if it is not real? It is real. What if I wake up? You are awake. What if you change your mind? I will not. What if, Eleanor? What if my father, Eleanor? She stopped. He had not moved closer, not by an inch, but his voice had become something she could lean on. Ellen. Listen to me. I am not asking for anything today. I am not asking for an answer. I am not asking for a promise. I am asking only this, that you allow me to do properly. Slowly, with your father's permission, with time, with patience, and at the end of it, however long it takes, you will decide. You, not your father, not society, not me, you. She nodded. She could not speak. He nodded back. He offered his arm. Properly. Formally this time she took it. They walked back to the house in silence. But the silence was a different silence now. It was the silence of two people who have just begun something. The first night after the rose arbor, Eleanor could not sleep. She lay in bed. She stared at the ceiling. She listened to the house creak. Her sister came to her room at midnight. A small knock. Cordelia, in her dressing gown, candle in hand, slipping in and shutting the door behind her like a girl half her age. Eleanor, yes, move over. Cordelia climbed into the bed, pulled up the covers, set the candle on the table. They lay there, side by side, the way they had not lain since childhood, since their mother had died and they had stopped being sisters and started being rivals, in a game neither of them had chosen. He spoke to you, Cordelia said. In the garden? Yes. What did he say? His mother told him about me. Before she died. A pause. Before he knew you existed. Yes, Eleanor. Yes, Eleanor. That is the most beautiful thing I have ever heard. Eleanor turned her head. Her sister was crying, quickly, without sound. Tears running into her perfect hair, Cordelia. I want to tell you something. Tell me, there was a man. Eleanor's breath caught 3 years ago. A captain. His name was Oliver. Oliver Pembroke. He was the second son of a baronet. He had no title, no money. Just a captain's commission and a face I could not stop thinking about, and a way of speaking to me that made me forget I was supposed to be beautiful. Cordelia. Father found out. He had Oliver posted to Bombay, the East India Company. He told me Oliver had asked to be sent. That Oliver did not want me. That Oliver had laughed when he heard he was free of me. A long pause. It was a lie, wasn't it? Yes, I knew. In my heart. But I had no proof. And father said. Lady Pemberton said. Everyone said Cordelia. For 3 years, Eleanor. For 3 years I have stood in front of mirrors and worn the gowns, and smiled at the men, and danced the dances, and inside I have been dying, slowly. Day by day, Eleanor reached for her sister's hand. She found it under the covers. She held it. I have been jealous of you, Cordelia whispered. Of me, yes, Cordelia. I have been invisibles, yes, and been constant seen, by everyone, except by anyone who mattered. And I would have traded places with you in a heartbeat. Eleanor closed her eyes. She thought about her sister, about the trunks of silk, about the modesties, about the dancing masters, about the way the maids curtsied to Cordelia and ignored Eleanor. She thought about Cordelia standing on a platform for 6 hours while Madame Devereux pinned her into a gown. She thought about Cordelia smiling at men whose names she could not remember. She thought about Cordelia at dinner, the performance of it. She had seen it. She had always seen it. But she had not understood. Now she understood. Cordelia. I am sorry. For what? For not seeing you, Eleanor. I am the one who never saw you. We both did not see. Yes, they lay together. The candle flickered. The clock on the mantel struck 1. Then 2. Then Cordelia spoke again. He is going to choose you. The Duke, you do not know that. I know, Cordelia. Eleanor, look at me. He is going to choose you. And when he does, Father will be furious, and I will be free. Do you understand what that means? Free for what? A long silence. Then I received a letter. What? 2 weeks ago. From a man I thought was dead. Cordelia. Oliver is coming home. Eleanor. Sat up in bed. Oliver. He never married. He never stopped loving me. He has saved his pay. He has bought passage. He arrives in England in 2 months. Cordelia. I have not told Father. You cannot tell Father. I know. He will. I know. What will you do? Cordelia was quiet for a long time. Then she sat up too. She turned to face her sister in the candlelight. Her face was different. Not the doll face. Not the trained face. Not the daughter face. Her own face. A face Eleanor had not seen since they were both children. I am going to be brave, Cordelia said. Like you, I am not brave. You are. You read Wollstonecraft. You spoke to a duke about Voltaire. You walked with him in a garden, without a chaperone. Cordelia, you are the bravest person I know. And I have been waiting for someone to be brave for so long, so that I could remember how. Eleanor reached out. She pulled her sister into her arms. They held each other, in a candlelit bedroom, in a half-mortgaged house, in the middle of a long autumn night. 2 sisters had held each other, and they were sisters again. For the first time in 22 years, for the first time since their mother had died. For the first time since the world had tried to make one of them a doll, and the other a ghost. The next morning, things began to break. Eleanor was in the library, her usual chair, her book. Locke again, because she liked to keep his arguments fresh in her mind. She heard a carriage on the drive. She knew the sound of every carriage that came to Hartwell Manor. The Duke's matched greys were lighter on the gravel. The doctor's gig was older, slower. The vicar's pony cart was slow and wheezing. This carriage was none of those. This carriage was big, heavy, loud. She rose, moved to the window. A coach. Black. Polished. 2 big horses. A driver in dark livery and no crest on the door. A man stepped down. He was tall, broad, about 50. Heavy in the shoulders, heavy in the gutut. Heavy in the way his coat strained across his back. His face was the kind of face Eleanor had read about in novels, but had never quite believed existed. A face that was handsome from a certain angle and ugly from any other. A face that had spent its life forcing other faces to smile at it. A face she had seen once before, 2 years ago, at a hunt ball. He had spoken to her father for tense minutes. He had not spoken to her at all. Lord Reginald Crawford. The man with 2 dead wives. Eleanor's hand closed on the window frame. She felt cold. She did not know why she felt cold. But she did. Her father met Crawford at the door, their voices in the entryway. Hartwell trying to be hearty. Failing. Then her father's study door closed. Then silence, then 40 minutes. Eleanor did not move from the window. She watched the horse's paw at the gravel. She watched the driver stand silent. She watched the leaves fall, one by one, from the dying maple by the gate. 40 minutes. Then, the front door opened. Crawford came out. His face was different than when he had gone in. The forced smile was gone. There was a small, ugly satisfaction in its place. He climbed into his carriage. He left. Eleanor went to her father's study. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again. Go away. She opened the door anyway. Her father was at his desk. His face in his hands. His shoulders shaking. He looked up. He looked old. He looked broken. He looked like a man who had just been offered the last meal of his life and had taken it because he was starving. Father. Eleanor. Go to your room. What did he want? Eleanor. What did he want? It is none of your concern, father. He stood up. He paced. He gripped the back of his chair. He spoke without looking at her. Crawford holds nearly all our debt. I know, you. What? I overheard you. Weeks ago. With Pembroke. He stared at her. Then you know. We are 6 months from ruin. Yes. He has offered an extension. Yes. On a condition. What condition? Her father did not answer. He went to the window. He looked out. The world had gone gray. The clouds had come in. The light in the room was the color of slate, father.
What condition?
He wants Cordelia. The words landed in the room like a body falling. Eleanor took a step back. No. Eleanor, no. He has buried 2 wives. Eleanor, you cannot. I have to consider it. You cannot consider it. You will not consider it. He will kill her. You do not know that. I know it the way I know my own name. You know it too. You looked into his face and you saw it. I know you saw it. I saw it from the window. Her father turned. His face was wet. She had never seen her father cry. Eleanor, listen to me. We are out of time. The Duke. The Duke has not declared himself. He visits. He talks. He walks, but he has not asked. Cordelia is the obvious choice. She has always been the obvious choice. And if he does not choose her in the next month, 2 weeks, then Crawford nothing. The Duke will not choose Cordelia. He must. He will not, Eleanor. Why? She stood very still. She thought about the rose arbor. She thought about Lady Genevieve. She thought about the line. The one about being seen's last. About standing still while the others spun. She did not say any of it. She said only, because he sees me. Her father looked at her. He looked at her for a long time. A very long time. The clock on his desk ticked. The fire popped. The rain began to tap on the window. He sat down. He put his head in his hands. His shoulders shook. He did not speak. Eleanor watched her father break. She did not enjoy it. She did not want it. But she also did not stop it. She turned. She left the study. She closed the door behind her. She walked to the library. She put on her cloak. She walked out the back door, across the lawn, past the dying garden, to the stables. Saddle me a horse. The groom stared. My lady. It is raining, I know. Saddle me a horse. Where are you going, Ravenshire? He stared. My lady. It is. It is not done. A young lady, alone, to a gentleman's estate. The roads. Your father will. My father is in his study, and he is not coming out. Saddle me a horse. Or I will saddle one myself. The groom looked at her. He saw something in her face. He had known her since she was a baby. He had taught her to ride. He had picked her up when she fell. He saw something in her face he had never seen before. He saddled up the horse. Eleanor rode out into the rain. Ravenshire was 11 miles. She made it in just over an hour. The horse was lathered. Her cloak was soaked through. Her hair had come undone. Mud was up to her knees. She did not care. She rode up the long drive. She dismounted at the steps. She handed the reins to a stunned groom. She walked up the steps. The butler opened the door. His face did not change, but his eyes took her in. The mud, the wet, the wildness. Lady Eleanor, please tell his grace that I must speak with him now. Alone, my lady. This is, please. He bowed. He disappeared. Eleanor stood in the great hall of Ravenshire House, dripping rainwater onto a marble floor that probably cost more than her father's entire estate. She did not move. She did not sit. She did not even take off her cloak. She stood. Then a door opened. The Duke came out of his study, coatless, sleeves rolled up, ink on one hand. As though he had been writing, he saw her. His face changed. He crossed the great hall in 6 strides. He did not speak. He just stopped in front of her. His eyes moved over her face. The wet, the wild, the mud. Eleanor, what has happened, Your Grace? I have come to be honest with you. Tell me, I am being improper. I am in your house, alone. My father does not know I am here. Tell me. She took a breath. She let it out. She had practiced the speech the entire 11 miles. She had not gotten any better at it, so she abandoned the speech. She just spoke. My family is bankrupt. We have 6 months, maybe less. A man named Crawford holds our debt, and he has offered an extension if my father will give him Cordelia. He has buried 2 wives already, and the second one was 23 when she died, and she did not die natural. My father is in his study, and he is considering it. He is actually considering it. Because the alternative is ruin. Because you have visited me 7 times, and you have spoken to me in a garden, and you have said beautiful things, but you have not declared yourself, and my father does not have the luxury of waiting. She stopped. She breathed. She kept going. I came here, Your Grace. Not to ask you to save us. Not to ask you to declare, not to demand anything. I came here to tell you. I came here to release you. If you have been visiting me out of curiosity, out of kindness, out of the kind of pity a man like you might feel for a girl like me, then you must stop. You must stop coming. You must stop being kind, because every visit you make and every word you speak is a reason for my father to delay, and while he delays. My sister, her voice broke. She had not meant for it to break. She straightened. My sister will die, slowly, in the house of Reginald Crawford. As his 3rd wife, she stopped. She had said it. She had said all of it. She stood in the great hall of Ravenshire House, and she dripped on the floor, and she waited for the Duke to do whatever he was going to do. He did not speak. He looked at her for a long time. His face was very still, but behind his eyes, something was moving, something was working, something was deciding. Then he turned. Wickham, the butler, appeared. Send for my carriage. Immediately. Yes, Your Grace. Send a footman ahead to Hartwell Manor. Inform Lord Hartwell that I will be calling within the hour. On a matter of the gravest importance. Yes, Your Grace. And bring Lady Eleanor a dry cloak. And a hot drink. And see that her horse is properly cared for. He has been ridden hard. Yes, Your Grace. The butler vanished. The Duke turned back to Eleanor. He took her hand. His own was warm. Hers was ice. Eleanor. Yes, listen to me. Yes. I have known about your father's debts since before the ball. She blinked. What? I make it my business to know the circumstances of every family I might marry into. My solicitor investigated every eligible woman in England before my mother's death. He continued after. There is no surprise here. I have known for 3 years that your family was in trouble. I have known for 6 months that it was almost over. Then I came to that ball for many reasons. Curiosity, duty partly, my mother's memory partly. But I did not come to save anyone. I came to find someone, Your Grace. Eleanor, I am going to ask you to call me Nathaniel. What, in this room? When we are alone. Like this, you will call me Nathaniel, will you? Nathaniel, yes. I do not know if I can. You just did, she laughed. It came out broken and wet and surprised. She had not laughed in a very long time. He smiled. The grief lines softened. Eleanor, I am going to tell you something. I am going to say it once. And then we are going to leave for your house. And I am going to settle this. Do you understand? Yes. I would have paid your father's debts the day after the ball. I would have paid them whether you spoke to me again or not. I would have paid them because I had the means, and because it would have become to Aindus, and because it would not have cost me very much, Nathaniel. I did not. Because I did not want you to confuse gratitude with affection. I did not want you to wake up one morning, 10 years from now, and wonder if you had only come to me because I had saved your family. I wanted your choice to be free. Truly free, yes. But, I did not know about Crawford. I did not know your father was running out of time. I did not know your sister was in danger. He paused. He looked at her. So today, the choice is made for me. Today, I will pay every debt your father owes. Today, I will end Crawford's claim. Today, I will protect your sister, and I will do all of it, without a single condition, without asking for your hand, without asking for anything, Nathaniel. And then, when it is done, when your sister is safe, when your father has his estate back, when the gossip has died, then, if you still want to be courted, properly, slowly, by a man who saw you in a gray gown at a bookcase, then I will be here. She could not speak, and if you do not, if you decide you do not want this, if you decide I am too old, or too quiet, or too sad, or too much, then I will let you go, and I will not regret what I did today, because what I am doing today is not for you, it is for me. It is the kind of man I want to be, the kind of duke, the kind of son, the kind of man my mother believed I could be. He stopped. The hall was very quiet. Eleanor's hand was in his. She looked up at him. The grief lines, the rictus mouth, the eyes that had become, in the space of 3 weeks, the eyes she trusted more than any other eyes in the world. She did not say yes. She did not say no. She said, Nathaniel. Take me home, he nodded. He led her to the carriage. They rode through the rain, 11 miles, side by side, hand in hand, and the world Eleanor Hartwell had lived in for 22 years, that world, was finally and forever done. The carriage rolled up the drive at Hartwell Manor. The rain had stopped. The clouds had broken. A late autumn light, thin, gold, the kind of light that looks like a promise even when it is just weather. Nathaniel stepped down first. He turned. He offered Eleanor his hand. She took it. She had taken his hand once before today, in his great hall, soaking wet, mud to her knees. This time she was dry. She wore a borrowed cloak, lined in silk and embroidered with small silver leaves, and Eleanor had not known cloth could weigh so little. She walked up the steps beside him. The front door opened before they reached it. Lord Hartwell stood in the entry. His face was gray. He saw the Duke, he saw his daughter, he saw the cloak. He understood, in one breath, that he had been outmaneuvered by his own forgotten child, by the man he had been trying to catch for his other child. He did not speak. He bowed. The Duke walked into Hartwell Manor like a man walking into a fire he intended to put out. Lord Hartwell, we need a private word, Your Grace. Of course, in your study. Now, yes. Eleanor will come with us. Lord Hartwell's eyes moved to his daughter. He did not protest. He did not have it in him to protest. The three of them walked to the study. The Duke shut the door. He did not sit. He spoke. How much, Your Grace? How much do you owe? All of it. Every farthing, to every man. Including Crawford. I, Lord Hartwell. The number. Now, her father gave the number. It was a number Eleanor had never heard out loud. It was a number that sounded like a death sentence. The Duke did not flinch. He pulled out a sheet of paper. He laid it on the desk. He took a pen from the inkstand. He wrote. He signed. He pushed the paper across the desk. That is a bank draft, payable to your solicitor. He will distribute it as needed. All debts will be paid today. Crawford first, by special messenger. Before nightfall, her father stared at the paper. He did not pick it up. He looked up at the Duke. His mouth opened. It closed. It opened again, Your Grace. I cannot. You can. You will. What? What do I want in return? Is that what you are asking? Yes, the Duke straightened. He was a tall man. In that moment, he was taller than Eleanor had ever seen him. Nothing, Your Grace. You will not give me your daughter, either of them. Cordelia will not be sent to Crawford. Eleanor will not be sent to P. They will not be sent anywhere. They are not livestock. They are not currency. They are your daughters. Lord Hartwell sat down. Hard. In the chair behind his desk, he put his hands flat on the wood. He looked at his hands. "I have not been a good father to Eleanor," he said, quietly. To his own hands, "No," the Duke said. "You have not, father," Eleanor spoke. Her father looked up. His eyes were wet. She had never seen his eyes wet. Not even when her mother died. He had cried alone in this very study, with the door locked, for 3 days. And then he had come out and he had not cried again. Until now. Until this moment. In front of a duke and his forgotten daughter, Eleanor. "Father, Eleanor. Oh, I have been so. I know. I have been a blind man. For 22 years. I have looked at the wrong daughter. I have looked through you. I have asked you to be invisible. I have." He stopped. He could not finish. The Duke spoke, quietly, without anger. "Lord Hartwell, I will leave you two alone. Take your time. I will be in your library." He bowed to Eleanor. He left. The door closed. Father and daughter, alone, for the first time in years. Eleanor walked to her father's desk. She looked down at him. He was an old man. She had not seen it before. She had seen him as a force, as a wall, as a voice that decided who mattered and who did not. Now she saw him as an old man with shaking hands and a wet face, a man who had outlived his own wife, a man who had tried to save his family and had nearly destroyed it instead, a man who had been afraid for so long he had forgotten he was afraid. "Father, Eleanor, stand up." He looked at her. He stood. She walked around the desk. She put her arms around her father. He went very still. Then he broke. He wept into her hair. Loud, racking. The kind of weeping a man does only once or twice in his life. The kind he holds in for decades. She held him. She did not say it was all right. It was not all right. She did not say she forgave him. Forgiveness was a long road, and they had only taken the first step. She just held him. Because he was her father. Because her mother had loved him. Because he was, in the end, a man who had stood up when a duke had told him to stand up and had said the truest words of his life. "I have not been a good father to Eleanor." That sentence was a beginning. She did not know yet if it would be enough, but it was a beginning. He pulled back. He wiped his face with both hands. He picked up the bank draft. He folded it. He looked at her. "Eleanor, father, what do you want me to do?" It was the first question he had ever asked her in 22 years. "What do you want?" She thought about it. She did not rush. She thought about Cordelia, about Oliver Pembroke, about the letter from Bombay, about the brown roses in the arbor. She thought about Nathaniel in the library, waiting. She thought about her mother, who had died 6 years ago, and who had once told her, at the foot of a bed, that the world would not be kind to a quiet daughter, but that quiet daughters often had the loudest souls. She thought. Then she spoke. "Cordelia loved a man 3 years ago. His name is Oliver Pembroke. You sent him to Bombay. He is coming home in 2 months. When he comes, you will receive him. You will treat him like a gentleman. And if she wants to marry him, you will let her." Her father closed his eyes. He nodded. "And me? Yes. You will not push me toward the Duke. You will not ask me. You will not hint. You will not arrange. You will let me die slowly, in my own time. And if I decide no, you will accept it. Yes. And one more thing. Yes. You will speak to me, father. Like I am your daughter, not your second daughter. Not the plain one. Not the afterthought. Your daughter. Mine, Eleanor. Promise me." "I promise," she nodded. She turned. She walked to the door. She opened it. She looked back. He is waiting in the library. "Come with me." Her father followed her. A small thing. A father following a daughter. A first thing. The next 4 weeks were a strange new country. Crawford came back once when he heard. He was loud at the door. He demanded to see Lord Hartwell. He shouted about a deal, about a verbal agreement, about a daughter promised. Lord Hartwell did not shout back. He just stood at the door. He spoke quietly. "My daughter is not for sale. My debts are paid. You have your money. I have nothing further to discuss with you." Crawford raged. Crawford threatened. Crawford said ugly things. Lord Hartwell shut the door. A week later, the news came through the village. Crawford had lost half his fortune on a shipping deal. The other half he lost gambling, trying to make it back. By winter, he would be selling his estate. A man does not need vengeance. Sometimes a man only needs to wait. Greed eats itself. Crawford disappeared into his own ruin, and Eleanor did not waste another hour thinking about him. But the gossip moved faster than the debt repayment. By Monday, every modiste in London knew by Tuesday. Every drawing room by Wednesday. Every ballroom. The Duke of Ravenshire had chosen the plain Hartwell sister, the plain one, the forgotten one, the one in the gray gown. People did not believe it. People needed an explanation. So they invented one. Grief. They said he has gone mad with grief. 8 years of mourning has rotted his mind. The mother who died. The fortune that grew too large. He is not himself. Or worse, she used arts. She used something. A potion. A spell. A devil's bargain. A woman like that does not catch a duke unless something is wrong. The gossip reached Eleanor at a tea. It was Lady Pemberton's autumn tea. Eleanor had been invited only because the invitation could not exclude her without insulting the Duke. She went. In a gown the color of new wine. Cordelia at her side. She stood in a drawing room full of women who had ignored her for 10 years. Women who now stared at her. Women who whispered behind fans. A young woman approached. Lady Margaret something. Eleanor did not catch the surname. Lady Margaret was beautiful. Lady Margaret was also cruel, Lady Eleanor. May I be frank? I would prefer it. You must know. You must understand. You are not equipped for this. To be a duchess. To stand at his side, the role demands a certain grace, a certain bearing. Surely you see. Eleanor stood very still. She felt Cordelia stiffen beside her. She felt the eyes of every woman in the room. She felt in her chest the old reflex. The 22-year reflex, the reflex to shrink, to apologize, to agree, to disappear. She did not. She looked at Lady Margaret. She spoke clearly, Lady Margaret. Yes, I have read more books in this past year than most women in this room have read in their lives. I have spoken to His Grace about Voltaire and Locke and Wollstonecraft and the Corn Laws and the trade debates in the House of Lords. I have not asked him about his clothes or his horses or his hunting. I have asked him about his mind. You may think this disqualifies me. I think it qualifies me. And so does His Grace. And so does Dowager Lady Whitmore, who I understand is a friend of yours. A small intake of breath. Lady Margaret's face changed. Dowager Lady Whitmore was 70 years old. She had ruled London society for 4 decades. Her approval could lift a debutante into legend. Her disapproval could ruin a duchess. Eleanor had met her exactly once, 2 weeks ago. The Duke had brought her, quietly, without announcement. They had taken tea in the Dowager's morning room. Just the 3 of them. The Dowager had asked Eleanor about Locke. Eleanor had answered. The Dowager had laughed once. The Dowager had said at the door as Eleanor was leaving, "You will do. That was all. You will do." But it was enough in London. That was enough. Lady Margaret turned slightly pale. She curtsied. She moved away. Eleanor stood with her sister at her side. The whispers in the room shifted, not all at once. But Cordelia squeezed her arm. "Sister, yes. You just did that. I know. You just did that, Cordelia. Please. I will faint. Do not faint. I want to faint. Hold my arm. I am holding it. Harder." Eleanor held her sister's arm harder. They walked through the room. They drank their tea. They smiled at the women who suddenly remembered they had always liked Lady Eleanor. They left at the proper hour. In the carriage on the way home, Eleanor laughed. Not a small laugh. A loud laugh. The laugh of a woman who has just discovered she is alive. Count Cordelia laughed with her, the driver heard. He turned around. He saw the Hartwell sisters in the back of the carriage. The plain one and the beautiful one, laughing like girls. Holding hands, tears in their eyes from laughing. He turned back to the road. He smiled to himself. He had driven these girls for a long time. He had not heard either of them laugh in years. The Duke's autumn gala came on a Saturday in mid-November. It had been 7 weeks since the first ball. The whole house was open, every chandelier lit, every door thrown wide. 200 guests. The cream of England. Eleanor wore a gown of midnight blue, not emerald, not white, not pink, not the colors of debutantes, the color of a sky just before stars. Her hair was up, 2 curls by her temples. She wore no jewels except a single sapphire on her right hand, her hand, not given, not promised hers. She stood at the entrance to the ballroom with Cordelia beside her, their father behind them. He had aged 10 years in the past 4 weeks. He had also become, somehow, kinder. He still made mistakes. He still spoke first sometimes when he should have listened. But he was learning. A man can learn. Even an old man. Even a proud man. Even a man who has been wrong for 22 years. Lord Hartwell took his younger daughter's elbow. "Are you ready?" "Yes, father." "I am proud of you, Eleanor." She did not look at him. She could not. If she looked at him, she would cry. She nodded. She walked into the ballroom on his arm. The Duke saw her. He crossed the room. The whole room watched him cross the room. He bowed. "Lady Eleanor, Your Grace, will you dance with me?" "Yes." The orchestra began. A waltz. He led her to the floor, his hand at her waist, her hand on his shoulder. The other 2 hands joined and lifted. They moved. Eleanor had taken 6 dancing lessons in her life. Cordelia had taken 100. Eleanor was not a great dancer, but she was with him. And in his arms, she moved like she had been doing it forever. He looked down at her. She looked up at him. "You are smiling," he said. "So are you. I have not smiled like this in 8 years. I have not smiled like this. Ever. Eleanor, Nathaniel, there is something I would like to do tonight. In front of everyone. Will you allow it? What is it? Wait." The waltz ended. He led her back to the edge of the floor. He turned. He stepped onto the small dais, where the orchestra played. The room hushed. A duke standing on a dais. The conductor put down his baton. The Duke spoke. His voice carried. "My friends, my guests, forgive the interruption." The room was silent. 8 years ago, this November, my mother died. She raised me alone after my father's death. She gave me an education most men do not receive. She taught me, above all, to look past surfaces, to find the worth that the world overlooks. He paused. On her deathbed, she told me how to choose a wife. She told me to look not at the woman everyone notices, but at the woman everyone misses. She told me that woman would be the one worth my life. He paused again. His eyes found Eleanor. For 8 years I searched. He paused. And then I found her. At a bookcase, in a gray gown, reading Wollstonecraft. At a ball I had thrown without any idea what I was looking for. The crowd did not breathe. Tonight, with her father's permission, and with all of you as witness, I would like to ask Lady Eleanor Hartwell a question. He stepped down from the dais. He crossed the floor. He stopped in front of her. He did not kneel. He stood. He looked her in the eye. He held out his hand. In his palm, a ring, an old ring, not new, not jeweled in the modern way, a simple band of gold with a single sapphire. The sapphire was old enough to have a small clouding in its heart. The kind of cloud that only forms in stones that have been worn for 50 years. This was my mother's ring. She left it to me. She told me to give it only to the woman who knew, in her own heart, that she was choosing me, not because of my title, not because of my fortune, not because of duty, because of me. He paused, Eleanor. I am not asking tonight, a murmur in the crowd. I am offering. He held the ring forward. Take this. Keep it. For 1 month. Wear it, or do not wear it. Live with it. Look at it. Think. Pray. Walk. Read. Talk to your sister. Talk to yourself. She did not move. He spoke softer now, and in 1 month, return to Ravenshire. Alone, if you choose, with the ring. If you say yes, we will marry. If you say no, return the ring, and I will love you for the rest of my life from a respectful distance. And I will not regret 1 minute of this. The room was utterly silent. Eleanor looked at the ring in his palm. She looked at his face. She looked at her sister behind her. Cordelia had both hands over her mouth. She looked at her father. He was crying quietly. She looked, last, at the floor. She took a breath. She reached out. She picked up the ring. She held it in her hand. It was warm. He had been holding it. She slipped it onto her finger. She looked up at him. I do not need a month. The room gasped. Eleanor, I have had 22 years. Eleanor, I have had 22 years of being invisible, of being passed over, of being forgotten by my own father. of sitting in libraries, of reading books no one wanted me to read, of being the gray gown in the corner. The room was breathless. I have had 22 years to learn who I am. And tonight, in front of you, I want to say it out loud. She paused. She spoke clearly. I am Eleanor Hartwell. I am 22 years old. I read too much. I speak my mind. I am not beautiful in the way the world insists on. I have a sister I love. A father I am learning to love again. A mother I miss every day. She looked at him. And I am the woman your mother told you about. The room broke. Not into applause. Not yet. Into something quieter. Something deeper. The sound 100 people make when they have just watched something true happen in front of them, and they have not been ready for it. Then the applause, it started slow. It grew. It became a wave. Dowager Lady Whitmore was the first to stand. Then the others. Then everyone. The Duke pulled Eleanor close. He did not kiss her. He was not that man. He pressed his forehead to hers. He whispered, "My mother would have loved you. I would have loved her. I love you, Nathaniel. I have loved you since the moment you said the word ignorance with that precise, small, angry voice. I love you." Then we are agreed. Yes, Eleanor. Yes, marry me, yes. The room was still applauding. A side door opened. Eleanor did not see it. The Duke did. He turned her gently. There is one more thing. What? Look. She looked. A man stood in the doorway. He wore a uniform. Cleaned and pressed. The uniform of the East India Company. He was sunburned, lean. His hair was darker than she remembered. He was older, 3 years older. Captain Oliver Pembroke. Cordelia saw him. She made a sound. A sound Eleanor had never heard her sister make. A sound that was not language. A sound that was 3 years of waiting. She walked across the ballroom, not ran. Walked, because Cordelia Hartwell had been trained to walk. And she walked across that ballroom in front of 200 people, the way she had been trained. But her face was the face of a girl who had been dead and was now alive again. Oliver dropped to one knee. Right there, in the doorway, in front of everyone, he held out his hands. She put hers in his. He kissed them. He said something. Eleanor was too far away to hear. But she did not need to hear. She turned to Nathaniel. You brought him. I wrote him 3 months ago, the moment your sister told you. The moment you told me, Nathaniel. He has resigned his commitment. He has come home for good. He is here for her. Do not thank me. He came for her. I only sent the letter. She kissed him in front of 200 people. A duke and a forgotten daughter, in the middle of a ballroom. In November, 8 years after a mother's death. 22 years after a girl had begun life as the second daughter no one named. She kissed him, and the applause did not stop for a very long time. The double wedding came in spring. Mid-April, the hedgerows were full of new, green. The roses in Hartwell Garden were budding. The maples along the drive were dressed in their soft first leaves. The chapel at Ravenshire was old. It had stood 500 years. It had seen a dozen Ashford weddings. It had not seen one in 8 decades. Today, it's us 2. Eleanor walked down the aisle on her father's arm. She wore a gown of pale ivory, her mother's veil, her mother-in-law's sapphire on her hand. Behind her, Cordelia, in pale gold, on the arm of their oldest cousin, because their father could only walk one daughter at a time. He had insisted on walking both. He would walk back up the aisle. He would walk Cordelia next. He would do it twice. He had promised. He kept his promises now. 2 grooms at the altar, Nathaniel in black, Oliver in his last set of dress whites, the East India Company uniform, but with the rank insignia removed, because he was no longer in the company. The uniform was a courtesy, a nod to the man he had been, the man he no longer needed to be. Eleanor reached the altar. Her father stopped. He turned to her. He lifted the veil. His eyes were wet. He spoke softly. So softly only she could hear. Your mother sees you today, Father. She does, Eleanor. Wherever she is, she sees you, Father. You were her favorite. She made it a small sound. I never told you, because I am a fool. But she told me, the week before she died. She said you were the one who would surprise us. She said you were the loud one, the loudest soul of any of us. And I did not understand. For 6 years I did not understand. He took her hand. He put it in Nathaniel's hand. I understand now. He stepped back. He walked to fetch Cordelia. Eleanor turned to her duke. He smiled. She smiled. They were married. The wedding feast went late. The musicians played. The guests danced. The tables were stripped and cleared and reset for dessert. The candles burned down. New ones came up. Eleanor and Nathaniel stole away to his library. Her library now. She stood in front of the great wall of books. She let her fingers trail across the spines, the same way she had done at the ball. A lifetime ago, a month ago, a long time ago, a short time ago, both at once. He stood behind her. He put his arms around her waist. He rested his chin on the top of her head. What are you reading next? I have not decided. Locke again. Maybe Voltaire. Maybe Wollstonecraft. Maybe. Something new. She turned in his arms. She looked up at him. Yes. Something new. What? Our life. He kissed her. Outside in the gardens of Ravenshire, the spring evening was soft and blue. The musicians had moved out to the lawn. Cordelia was dancing with Oliver. She had her head on his shoulder. She was smiling. He was smiling. Her father stood at the edge of the lawn, holding a glass of wine, watching his older daughter with a face that had finally remembered how to be a father. Inside in the library, Nathaniel held Eleanor. Eleanor held Nathaniel. The fire crackled. The shelves stood in their old patient rows. The Wollstonecraft was still on the third shelf from the top. Eleanor pulled it down. She turned the pages. She found the line. The mind that thinks is not less feminine for thinking. She traced it with her finger. She closed the book. She put it back. She turned to her husband. Nathaniel. Yes, I was invisible for 22 years. I know. And you saw me. I did. Why? He thought about it. He gave her the honest answer. Because someone told me to. Your mother? Yes. And you listened? I listened. Other men would not have listened. Other men did not have my mother, no. A pause. Nathaniel, yes, some girl, somewhere, right now, is sitting in a corner, in a gray gown, reading a book, and no one in her is looking at her. Yes, tell me there will be a man like you, someday. For her, there will be. How do you know? Because I will live the rest of my life telling that story, the story of you. And men will hear it, and some of them will listen. Maybe more than one. Will go find her. The next one. The one who is waiting now. The one who does not yet know she is going to be found. Eleanor's eyes were wet. She did not stop them. She had stopped crying for 22 years. She had earned the right to cry now. She cried. He held her. He did not tell her to stop. He understood. Some tears are the body finally letting go of something it has carried too long. Outside, the music played. Inside, the fire burned. A duke held his wife in a library full of books. A man and a woman who had both been looking for each other for a very long time. A man who had listened to his mother. A woman who had read her books. A father who had finally said the right words. A sister who had crossed a ballroom on the arm of a man who had come back for her from the other side of the world. A house full of people. A house full of life. 22 years of silence. One autumn of grace. One spring of beginning. And somewhere out there, somewhere right now, another girl is sitting in a corner with a book on her lap. Another father has just walked past her without seeing. Another house is rushing on to someone else. Another girl is looking at the gray of her own life and thinking she will be invisible forever. She will not. Someone is coming. Maybe today. Maybe tomorrow. Maybe in 5 years. Maybe in 20. But someone is coming. Because in this world, in every generation, there are mothers who tell sons the truth. And there are sons who listen. And there are daughters who, no matter how long it takes, will be found. You are not invisible. You are simply waiting to be seen by the right eyes when that moment comes. Steep into the light. You have earned it. You always have.